What's going on, guys? Thank you for tuning in on just a wild Tuesday night performance here by the Suns. They overcome a 23-point deficit in a game that was easily a must-win situation for them, and they come out on top to take down the Clippers 119 to 117. Connor, boy, how you doing, man? How's the pulse right now? How's the blood pressure?
I mean, speaking of pulse, at least we know there is one, right? Because my goodness, this was, I mean, it was a much needed game, just like you said. And now I'll tell you what, I have not felt kind of the arena shake like it did down the stretch of that fourth quarter. It was impressive. It was a really fun one.
It We said it last time. I mean, every game is a must win. It feels a little bit of a cliche, but I mean, they were getting blown out in this with the way everything had went. It feels like there's a chance this could be a moment. Like it feels like, this could be something that can spring them a little bit and give them a chance because you look at the standings, they're really not out of this thing. They're only 3 games back from having an opportunity, 2.5. Um, what was the locker room like afterwards? I mean, did you feel like there was a different kind of sense, a different energy? There had to be compared to the other night, but just kind of a rejuvenated sense a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, y- like they know that there's hope now. And Durant was KD was telling us post game that it's you really need a win like this. Like it's an absolutely massive win. And it reinforces the fact that, we've talked about it. We know how good this team could be. And a win like this just reinforces the fact that this team is good enough to make a run here. And yeah, I mean, even I even saw some rare emotion from Coach Bud's face at the end of the game because he seemed very relieved because honestly, the way that game was going, boy, if they would have lost, it would have been probably worse than last game, and that's saying a lot.
Yeah, I want to. I mean, there's a number of guys that we got to talk about in this thing, but I want to go back to that altercation there between Bud and Durant. Um, Something, nothing. Well, I mean, what do you think? If they would have just been jawing back and forth, in my opinion, that's something that goes kind of unnoticed. But Bud grabbing him felt and looked, the optics of it were not great. Like anytime you got a coach that puts his hands on another player and the way that he did, I mean, it wasn't like putting hands is probably too strong of a term, but like literally like grabbing him for a second, that didn't look great. That did not look, and maybe that honestly, maybe that's exactly what the team needed and kind of fired him up and got him to go out there and play. But there was I mean, that felt kind of like a huge moment, not just in this game, but also kind of in the trajectory of this team and kind of what comes after this where you can challenge your players, but grabbing them like that felt really wild. I mean, what'd you think of that?
Yeah, honestly, I don't think I've seen anything quite like that this season, and it's kind of, I guess, it would be in the Suns' luck for that to happen on national television. But Bud and KD told us post game. KD specifically told us word for word that that's just the dynamic that him and Bud have. Two competitors that want to win and they want everything to go right. And sometimes something that KD thinks is something that Bud isn't going to think, and they're going to have that exchange. But he also said that he wishes the cameras were on them like 30 seconds afterwards because he went up to him, they exchanged kind of a little side hug, and they were talking out their points through and through. And even to the rest of the game, they were having constructive conversations. So, I mean, yeah, the optics, like you said, were pretty bad. But even Bud said that the relationship that him and KD have are, one of friends that kind of jokingly like to get under each other's skins, but they're both serious in that manner. So, yeah, it looked bad, but I don't think it's much.
I will say, if you have that level where a coach can challenge you and come back, that speaks a lot about the kind of the maturity and the level that Durant has that he can take coaching like that. And then two, maybe their relationship then, if that's really kind of true, isn't nearly as bad as kind of, uh, you know, maybe some of the narrative on the outside are kind of what's going on because you have to have your team's respects in order to coach them hard. And that was one moment where it looked like he was coming down on him. And if that is how KD really feels, I mean that is an awesome sign for this team and kind of where they could go if he can actually kind of take it like that. Let's dive into the game. So many guys needed to step up when you're down that far. usual suspects. We could jump into Colin first. I feel like we got to start with KD and kind of just how much he just took off, especially there in the fourth quarter. It felt like the building every time he started making shots, you could feel it, kind of the growing kind of sense of what was happening there. What can you say about that performance, man? I mean, it was just so clutch there in the fourth quarter to kind of be able to get this team back into it, and then a chance to actually bring this thing home.
Yeah, well, let me tell you a moment in the game where I knew something clicked. I think it was the catalyst. They started the fourth quarter on 11-2 run. Right after KD hit a huge three, the Clippers called timeout, and KD looked towards the crowd, begging them to give him something, like needed the crowd's energy. And I think that's just emblematic of kind of the dynamic that and the relationship that he has with the crowd and the overall like holistic relationship of a crowd in a basketball game. And Katie knows when he's got it clicking, he knows how to ignite the crowd. And yeah, it was just, man, vintage Katie. That was an incredible fourth quarter performance. And honestly, the Suns needed it because not many of their usual suspects really stepped up. I mean, the next highest score was what, Nick Richards with 17 points, something like
Yeah.
that. And but yeah, and I mean, I'll move forward to Colin Gillespie.
Boy,
My goodness,
unreal. A guy that hasn't had his number called, feels like pretty much the entire season, and a guy that needed to they needed somebody because Beal wasn't giving them anything. Booker was having a pretty tough night. I mean, they needed somebody to give them some juice, and the shots he hit tonight, unreal. I mean, unreal.
yeah, it was insane. And that last 3-pointer that he hit, they asked him about it post game, and he said straight up, like, I've been ready for this. He's coming from a winning situation in Denver, so he actually knows, ironically, more about winning than a lot of people on this roster. And he was telling us he's ready for that. He's ready for those moments. He played every single. I think he played all but 3 seconds in the fourth quarter, and he was just completely impactful every single second. He was a plus 21 on the night. 10 points in the fourth. Yeah, he was really good, and high praise from KB and Coach Bud for sure for Colin.
Not just a winner over there in Denver, but I mean, you go back even to his days in Villanova. I mean, this guy has, I would say, in a very complimentary fashion, he has overachieved for a basketball player for his limitations when it comes to the measurables. This guy has just been a winner that makes winning plays on good teams, and boy, they needed him tonight, and to come up like that. Now you look at the standings, they're advanced. Like, I mean, that's pretty much all this team could ask for. I would think at the start of the night or kind of the way things are going. And I was thinking about this earlier today. There's two things that, all right, so the Kyrie injury is going to be something that is going to have ramifications for the Suns in so many ways. But particularly this year, the Mavericks are one of the teams that are chasing. And if they can get hot and have a chance to win some of these games, you would think now with Kyrie out and they already still aren't missing 80, like this team's going to have a chance at making a run here. It feels like they can get in. It's so wild. It's one game removed from feeling like the wheels are completely off, but it feels like this team now is going to have an opportunity, and there should be like a sense of that, like a little bit more rather than just a sense of panic and urgency. There's almost like a sense of like, hey, we got a chance at this, right?
Yeah, and you know what? To your point, that Kyrie news, although devastating, is massive news for the Suns. I mean, you couldn't think of a better path because before, I mean, even if Kyrie didn't get hurt and the Suns won this game, you could maybe talk yourself into saying like, "Hey, they're going to gain momentum." But the Mavs just lost their best player for the rest of the season. AD, there's reports that he's probably going to get shut down for the rest of the season as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, just a huge door just opened for Phoenix. And I even asked KD post game. I asked him, you know, Book the other day was talking about how every game moving forward is going to need to kind of have this playoff feel. I asked him, "Is that what it's going to take?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "Every game moving forward, we're going to have to be dialed in. We're going to have to rise to the occasion, and just can't take a game off." And yeah, honestly, tonight really felt like a playoff game, and every game moving forward is going to have to be exactly like tonight.
I'm curious your thoughts on, I mean, this can't be a winning formula in multiple games where you have both Beal and Booker kind of give you almost nothing, right? I mean, like, I guess is it are you more encouraged by them winning a game where you look at so many of their stars didn't deliver, or are you more concerned that this was a huge game for them and two of the guys that normally you would look to didn't really give you much of anything?
Yeah, honestly, if it weren't for KD, then, they're probably losing by 20, maybe even 30. And, Book and Brad, although I'll give some grace to Brad because he left the game at halftime with some left calf soreness. But yeah, if Book and Brad are going to be taking games off like this, it's not going to be sustainable at all. And you can't expect Colin Gillespie to be a plus 21 every single game moving forward. No, I
Mm.
mean, we can call it what it is, but it's not sustainable at all. And you're going to need to get the gears running. Just like KD said post game, everyone's going to have to get focused, and Kyle didn't rise to the occasion. It can't just be him and a two-way guard who spent, the most of the season in the G League.
Yeah, that's normally not a recipe in the NBA that to kinda success there. Uh, you guys on the other side, I guess you look at kind of they got punished a little bit on the block. I'm Zubac kinda was giving them the work kinda all night long. Um, I guess how concerned is that? Is that something was that just him having a great night, you feel like? Or you're not in modern day NBA, you're not gonna run into too many guys that are gonna be, powering down on the block like that and stuff like that, I guess, or that's not I mean, you got Jokic and who else in the West that's really gonna be someone that's gonna be there. But I guess does that show you a little bit of interior kind of problems with this team, something that they need to be concerned with? Because after, they go and get Richards, you feel like you have some, athleticism there at the 5 spot, um, but it didn't look great tonight.
Yeah, yeah, I've always felt like their front court has been a bit weak, even post Richards trade. But I also think tonight was just a huge Zubats game. I just think he had it going. I mean, he only missed 4 shots, grabbed 10 rebounds, and he just, he had a great night. Um, but I mean, the thing that sucks is that, the best big in the world, best player in the world is the big and is in their conference. But I think that's something that every team is worried about, I mean, literally everyone in the Western Conference is worried about Jokic. And I'm pretty sure or Zubats and is going to have a game like this against the Thunder or the Lakers. Maybe not so much the Thunder because they have some really dynamic bruising bigs, but
Mm.
all these other top teams, I feel like Zubats could have a similar night, and I'm not too worried about it for the Suns, but if it does happen again to someone maybe a little bit worse than Zubats, then maybe we'll start worrying. But there's just a lot of problems that we have to worry about with this one for the rest of the season.
That's that's painfully accurate, but and, as just it concerned me, I guess, or it was on my radar because literally the next team up on the schedule is gonna go see that big swing, I mean, they're getting ready to go over there to Denver and try and deal with Jokic, who's I mean, the dude's not gonna win the MVP because the SGA is having a crazy season on a team that's gonna lose maybe 15 games this year, but there's an argument he's still the best player in the world and still having the best season, he's just not on maybe the best team, and that guy is on fire, so how you concerned? I mean, what do we do here? What does anybody do? Is there a secret to dealing with this team right now that I mean, Denver's really good. They're really good, man.
Yeah, I mean, as I was talking about Jokic, I was just kind of envisioning him like just sitting down, watching this film, watching Zubats do what he did to the Suns, and just
This man ain't watching film, he's watching horses. Come on now.
yeah, you're right, you're right, you're right. Maybe he's tending to one of his horses while he's watching film or something like
Sure.
that. But yeah, I mean, boy, uh, yeah, I mean,
Making his job.
honestly, yeah, honestly, last game I said that it wasn't really going to look good for the Suns against the Clippers, and for the better part of the game, it did not look good. It took a really big KD night. I hate to say it again, but yeah, I don't think it's looking good unless Phoenix can show me that that they're capable of winning these types of games, then I'm just gonna think every matchup against a top tier team moving forward, and I know they did.
Well, it's the start of a 4-game road trip, um, and it's not easy. I mean, they're playing 4 of the I think 5 of the top teams. 3 of the games are against teams in the top 5 in the West. When you got Denver, you got the Grizzlies, and you got Houston. That's pretty grueling. They do play the Mavericks in that stretch. To me, that one, you gotta find a way to win that one. You win that one, you're giving yourself a little bit of an out if the rest of the games really go your way. But I mean, you think 2-2 on this trip? If you go 2-2 on this road trip, is that good enough for you?
I think it depends on the 2-2. I do think that Mavericks game is probably the biggest game of the season to
Yeah.
that point. Yeah, it's gonna be a massive game and they have to win it. Uh 2-2, I think would be ideal with one of those wins being against the Mavericks. Um, yeah, yeah, 2-2 would be good. Obviously, you want to go 4-0, but 2-2 would be ideal for this point of the season and their situation right now.
Yeah, we'll see, man. Friday night, it's gonna be nationally televised on ESPN game. Boy, maybe Jokic will sit out. He doesn't like nationally televised games all the time. You know, he's done that before. Maybe we'll get lucky.
Yeah,
Who
maybe we'll
knows?
see. We'll see.
Roll the dice. But either way, this team keeps you on your toes. If nothing else, they keep you entertained and interested in for a team that's not even in the play-in right now. It has been a roller coaster ride, and at least for tonight, it didn't look like it, but they got reasons to be excited about kind of where they are and happy. And out of nowhere, they've been thrown a life rope, it feels like, and a chance to try and make one last push. So will it work? I guess we're gonna have to stick around and find out. But Connor, I appreciate it, man. Another wild night over there, and we'll know you keep us updated down the stretch.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.